3 spine-chilling true summer horrors, sinister secrets discovered in forbidden places. Mia Martinez loved the carefree days of summer, but even the sunniest days held secrets lurking in the shadows. One afternoon, while digging in her family's backyard, she unearthed an old, rusted key. The air was thick with tension, a premonition invading her joy. Little did she know, this key was the gateway to a fear that would grip the neighborhood of Maplewood. A town that once felt safe now bore an uneasy edge. It was just a key, or was it? Rumors swirled amongst neighbors of strange occurrences in the seemingly abandoned house next door. The once beloved Mr. Reynolds, a sweet school teacher, vanished without a trace, leaving hushed tales of whispers and shadows. Pets went missing, families huddled indoors, and closed doors seemed to hold secrets too ghastly to comprehend. Mia found it thrilling. She wanted to jump into the unknown, but darkness wrapped tightly around her imagination. Curiosity fought against sensing danger as she ran home beneath the glow of evening light, unaware of the horrors tightening their grip on Maplewood. As night fell, anxiety loomed like storm clouds. Her parents spoke in worried tones, plotting their next move over barbecue smoke that barely masked their dread. They laughed uneasily, but behind those forced smiles lay an undeniable fear that maybe they'd never see their daughter playing happily again. Each creak of the house felt louder, each whisper seemed sharper, echoing their paranoia. With rising intensity, it was as if all of Maplewood was caught in a web of unexplainable terror, nerves twitching like fireflies in the dark. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia, sweet and brave, had her heart set on investigating the old house. In the soft afternoon heat, she approached the dilapidated structure that had become a neighborhood legend. Butterflies danced in her stomach, but she felt the rush of adventure. The key, hanging heavily from her small hand, seemed to pulse with anticipation. What lay behind that door? She stood before the entrance, every heartbeat drumming in her ears, when a sudden thud echoed deep from the dark basement. She turned, wide-eyed, searching her parents' expressions for reassurance. "He's in there, isn't he?" The chilling realization sent shivers down their spines. With trembling hands, they stepped forward together, uncertainty gnawing at their guts. Each creak of the door felt like a countdown. They crossed the threshold into the dark, where shadows twisted and curled like hungry ghosts, the air growing colder around them. Somewhere inside, danger lurked, masquerading in the guise of safety. And as Mia entered the darkness filled with haunted whispers, one troubling thought clung tightly: what if Mr. Reynolds' friendly smile had hidden something far more sinister? Would anyone leave the basement unscathed? The air turned thick with dread as they stepped deeper into the basement, the stale smell of dampness heavy in their lungs. Mia clutched the key tightly, her knuckles pale against the iron. They moved with caution, glancing at each shadow as if it could spring to life and swallow them whole. The pale beam of a flashlight danced across crumbling walls, revealing peeling wallpaper and forgotten memories. It illuminated the remnants of a life once vibrant: a broken chair, dusty photo frames, and children's toys scattered like lost dreams. "Mia, we should turn back," her father whispered, but hesitation trembled in his voice. He didn't want to appear fearful, he felt the weight of his daughter's adventurous spirit. But inside, his heart pounded like a war drum. "Just a little further," Mia insisted, her curiosity igniting a flame of courage. But each step felt like walking toward a funeral pyre, an unsettling sense of finality creeping closer. The oppressive atmosphere pressed against them, filling the space with a chilling silence that seemed to breathe. Suddenly, a sharp clang echoed from the far corner, startling them into a panic. They exchanged terrified glances, every muscle tense, hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Mia exclaimed, her voice a trembling whisper. "Yeah," her mother replied, her tone laced with uncertainty, let us check it out." They moved in the direction of the sound, each step heavier than the last. Shadows played tricks on their eyes, wrapping around them like a suffocating fog. Mia's flashlight flickered, its beam fading, only to flicker back to life, illuminating for a brief second the handle of an old door, rusted and nearly hidden behind stacks of broken furniture. The sight sent a shudder of unease through Mia. This could be it," she said, breathless with both fear and exhilaration. Her father hesitated but ultimately stepped toward the door. With a deep breath, he twisted the handle. It creaked ominously, crying out from years of abandonment. As it opened, the air burst forth, musty and thick. It felt ancient, almost sentient, like the breath of long-lost souls whispering secrets of forgotten terror. "What's in there?" her mother murmured, her voice nearly swallowed by the darkness. Mia peered into the gloom, but the darkness seemed to resist the flashlight's feeble glow. It wasn't empty, she could sense it. Something waited. A twinge of fear gripped her, but the urge to discover the truth outweighed it. She stepped inside, unwilling to let fear dictate her adventure. An unexpected rush of cold air brushed past her, igniting a primal instinct to flee. She shivered, her breath visible in front of her. "Maybe we should go back," her mother urged, panic seeping into her voice now, but it was too late. The door slammed shut behind them without warning. The echo bounced off the walls like a tortured wail, mirroring the sinking feeling in Mia's stomach. In the oppressive blackness, whispers sprang to life, slithering through the air, curling around them like the fingers of a long-dead ghost. "Help us, join us," the voices beckoned, the promises entwined with sinister laughter that cut through the silence like a jagged knife. Mia froze, her heart racing, eyes wide. "What do you want?" she stammered, her voice quaking with terror as the shadows shifted closer. The whispers grew louder, surrounding her like a storm. The key in her hand felt like a lead weight. The question loomed larger than ever: had they entered a realm from which they would never return? And the chilling thought struck her: what if this key unlocked not just a door, but a nightmare that would consume them all? The basement vibrated with laughter resonating from darkness, setting the air on fire with dread. Something reached from the shadows, drawing nearer, and as panic clawed at Mia's throat, she knew she had to make a choice. Would she confront the unknown or succumb to its chilling embrace? Before she could run, a cold hand clamped around her wrist, squeezing tight. A voice hissed from the shadows: "You should have never come here." Would they escape the clutches of darkness, or would the basement become their tomb? Mia gasped, the icy grip squeezing hard enough to send a shockwave of terror coursing through her. Her pulse thundered in her ears, she could barely distinguish her own thoughts from the cacophony of whispers swirling around them. The laughter morphed into an almost choir-like sound, an unsettling harmony that seemed to mock their very existence. "Mia!" her father shouted, panic slicing through his voice. He lunged toward her, but the shadows twisted, constricting his movements like a vice. "Get away from her!" But in the claustrophobic darkness, Mia remained immobilized, her feet glued to the damp floor. "What do you want?" she repeated, her voice barely a whisper as she fought to maintain her courage. "Join us." The whispers melded together, drawing nearer, enveloping her like a fog. The word felt heavy, charged with a promise that slithered through her spine. "Mia, don't listen!" her mother cried, desperation flowing through each word, her own voice trembling like a fragile thread ready to snap. Mia's breath quickened. The shadows pulsed with life, and she could feel malevolent eyes watching her every move. We just wanted to see," she managed to say louder, her heart racing as she braced against a shuddering wave of icy fear. "We didn't mean any harm." Another laugh erupted from the blackness, cold and sharp, sending a wave of chills down her back. "Intruders." The voice was layered with layers of hunger and despair. "You are lost and you already belong." The shadows shifted, writhing in a way that felt almost alive. Something from the depths slithered closer, a tangible darkness that threatened to drag them down into the ground. Bright flashes of lights illuminated the room for a fraction of a second, revealing twisted figures' faces contorted in pain, eyes hollowed and haunting. The sight sent Mia's heart plummeting with dread. "Run!" her father bellowed, finally breaking free from the magnetic pull of fear. He grabbed Mia's arm with all his strength. "We have to find a way out." But just as they turned, another echoing laugh filled the air, louder now, a deafening cacophony that drew closer, pressing in from all sides. The door they had entered through was gone, swallowed by the abyss. "Don't leave it isn't safe out there," a lonely voice called softly, almost coaxing, sending a shiver cascading through Mia's spine. "Mom!" Mia cried, as her mother stumbled, trying to catch her breath. The whispers surged, becoming a swirling storm around them, feeding on their fear, eager to absorb their terror into the void. Clenching the key, Mia's fingers were slick with sweat. "Mia, we can't give in," her father urged, pulling her towards a flickering light at the far end, what seemed to be a distant corner of the room. "We have to keep moving." They darted forward, but the shadows lashed out, clawing at their heels, desperation thickening the air. Mia's mind raced. What if the key? No time. Her father shouted, urgency kicking in, "Just stick together." As they reached the light, it revealed what appeared to be a stone altar, engraved with ancient symbols pulsing with faint luminescence. The laughter stilled, a palpable heartbeat replaced it. The air shifted, and the room felt alive, narrowing their possibilities. Mia felt the key pull her closer toward the altar, the whispers now reduced to an ominous, expectant hush. In that moment, everything hung suspended. Her heart thundered in her chest as the shadows shrank back, uncertain. "Should I do it?" she thought. The choice weighed heavily upon her. "Mia! No!" her mother yelled, desperation spilling from her mouth as Mia took a hesitant step forward. But the decision was being made, darker than the shadows. She held the key out, the air growing electric, hovering in a liminal space waiting for something only they could determine. The energy sparked, the whispers began to rumble once again, a wave of anticipation engulfing the room. They were not just facing something hidden, but something that craved awakening. What would the key unlock? Would it be freedom or doom? As her trembling hand hovered over the altar, the laughter swelled, filling every corner of the room. The darkness shivered, waiting. And in that heartbeat, she realized, whatever lay ahead, they were already tethered to it, drawn into a fate that felt both inevitable and horrifying. "Make your choice," echoed the whispers, and the moment hung heavy with possibilities. Would they escape the dread or descend deeper into the nightmare? The shadows unleashed a feral howl, igniting their resolve, leaving Mia standing at the threshold of terror. Mia's fingers trembled, hovering just above the glowing symbols of the altar. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating stillness. The whispers surged like a rising tide, a cacophony filled with urgency. It was as if the shadows waited for her breath, for her decision. "Mia, please." Her mother's voice broke through the chaos, laced with fear. "Think. We don't know what that key will do." But what choice did they truly have? The darkness pressed in with a need so visceral, it clawed at her mind. And as the laughter echoed once more, indignant, cruel, Mia felt a surge of defiance. As she started lowering the key, the symbols glowed brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat that resonated within her bones. "Do it!" The shadows seemed to scream, their whispers evolving into an overwhelming roar, battling against her sanity. "No!" Her father gripped her shoulder, trying to pull her back. But the pull from the altar was irresistible, like a magnetic force drawing her closer. The warmth of the light clashed violently with the bone-chilling coldness surrounding them. "Mom!" Mia screamed as the shadows writhed, snaking toward her father, their forms bloating, their laughter twisting. "We have to hurry. They won't let us leave." She could see the gaping abyss where the door once stood, an exit vanishing into nothingness. Sweat poured down her back, and she gritted her teeth, the cold panic boiling under her skin. "Mia!" Her father's voice was a desperate plea as the shadows lunged at him, elongated fingers reaching out like claws, dripping with an unholy hunger. Mia's heart surged with a sickening combination of fear and bravery. With a final push of resolve, she thrust the key downward, aiming it at the altar's welcoming embrace. As the metal touched the stone, a shockwave of energy rippled through the air, tearing the very fabric of silence. The altar roared to life, a blinding light erupting, fusing shadows with radiance in a spiral of chaos. "Together!" her father shouted, yanking Mia's other hand as the air exploded with sound, a symphony of screams, laughter, and whispers intertwining into a single resonating pulse. For a moment, they were weightless. The shadows screeched in fury, dissipating into a whirl of darkness, their forms collapsing under the brilliance of the light. Mia squeezed her father's hand tighter, her pulse racing as tendrils of shadow tried to latch onto them, but were scorched away by the awakening energy. Yet, with a terrifying realization, the altar seemed to groan with dissatisfaction. The symbols began to darken, the celebration of light fading as Mia and her family fought back against the tide pulling them apart. "What's happening?" her mother cried out, terror flooding her voice. The chaos intensified, a whirlwind of energy swirling around them as the laughter began anew, but now more chaotic, more frantic than before. "Hold on!" Mia shouted, summoning every ounce of strength as the golden light flickered. At that moment, the altar's energy broke free, booming as if it were a sentient being. It surrounded them, entrapping them in a cage of sheer brightness. But then, without warning, the altar shattered, sending shards of light into the blackness, turning the room into a kaleidoscope of colors. Mia gasped, her breath shallow. "What now?" She stumbled, catching sight of the swirling remnants of shadows and faces, desperate and greedy, echoing her uncertainty. "No!" The voices screamed, retreating into the corners, yet the laughter still lurked beneath like a predator poised to strike again. It felt like a countdown, a warning, a promise of the darkness to come. "Mia!" her father's voice cut through the distraction. "Find the way. We have to move." She blinked against the glare, her heart racing wildly. Ahead of them, the darkness began folding back, revealing a corridor. The shape of a door. It was obscured by the shadows, like a nightmare trying to reinvent itself. With a trembling hand, Mia took a step towards it, her family's grip anchoring her as they approached the glow. But shadows rippled, thrashing against their own panic. "What is that?" her mother murmured, voice lost to fear. When they reached the threshold, it whispered back, beckoning them, whispering secrets of each night they would leave behind. Shadows doomed to their cycle of despair. Would they escape, or had they simply become part of something larger, something unending? The choice was upon them, and this time, their fates intertwined with the very darkness they sought to flee. Mia stepped forward, dread clinging to her like a shroud. The corridor stretched before them, dim and uninviting, pulsating with a life of its own. The whispering grew fierce, clawing at her ears, promising her what she feared most, secrets too sinister to bear. "Mia, stay close," her father urged, the grip on her hand tightening as they ventured into the shadows. They moved as a unit, each step echoing hollowly, like the beat of a heartbeat drum, quickening the sense of urgency. As they passed through the threshold, a chill swept through the corridor, wrapping around them with an icy embrace. Instinctively, Mia glanced back. Behind them, the altar pulsated ominously, its shards of light dimming, retreating as if the darkness was feasting on its brilliance. The whispers shifted, morphing into a rhythm, a chant growing louder, more insistent. "Mia, Mia, come join us," the voices bellowed, mocking her. It felt like an invitation, but she knew it was a trap, designed to ensnare the unwary. "What is this place?" her mother whispered, eyes wide and searching. The walls seemed to shift, shadows creeping from every crack, extending tendrils toward them, courting fear with a hunger that made Mia's skin crawl. They walked on, breathless and fragile, until they stumbled into a larger chamber. It opened up, revealing a ceiling that seemed to stretch into oblivion. Ancient carvings adorned the walls, their faces grinning down as if sharing a cruel joke. Jagged red lines traced patterns around them, seeping into the stone like dried blood, pulsating softly. Mia felt a surge of nausea, a sick twist in her gut. "We shouldn't be here," she stammered. But her father's eyes remained fixed ahead. "We have to find a way out. There has to be a door somewhere." But the voices sang louder now, drowning out her protests. Stay with us, don't leave." With each syllable, she felt themselves being pulled, the shadows wrapping tighter, trying to weave their dark intentions into her very soul. Then came a crack, distant at first, then growing closer, a sound like thunder breaking apart the silence. The walls shuddered, dust trickling from above. Shapes began to stir in the edges of her vision. Figures, twisted and distorted, ambled forward from the walls, their mouthless faces twisted in grimacing mockery. "Mia!" Her mother screamed, jerking her back just as a shadow lunged from the dark, clawed hands grasping at the air where she'd been standing. The ground trembled beneath their feet. "Run!" her father shouted, and the family turned in a heartbeat, racing back toward the corridor. But it felt as if the walls were tightening around them, an elastic band ready to snap, trapping them in this nightmare forever. They charged ahead, the shadows darting behind, laughter echoing like ice through their bones. Mia could feel the darkness clawing at her heels, a chill creeping into her bones. Her heart raced with primal fear as the corridor twisted, reshaping itself like a living entity. Paths vanished, new ones appeared, all leading only deeper into the abyss. Where do we go?" her mother cried, pounding at the walls as if they would give way under her desperation. A desperate instinct kicked in. "This way!" Mia shouted, spotting a faint flicker of light in the distance, cutting through the oppressive blackness. It flickered like a candle, a beacon of hope among the despair. As they fled toward the light, it began to dim, threatening to snuff out completely. The voices crescendoed around them, their laughter rising in triumph, eager to swallow their hope. "Mia!" her mother's voice was a distant echo. "Don't leave us. Hold on, we're almost there." But as they surged toward the light, Mia's heart sank as she realized the flicker was a mere illusion, drawing them closer to the trap, deeper into darkness. "No!" she screamed, a raw plea that clawed at the air. But the corridor surged with energy, shadows twisting into shapes beyond comprehension. The climax of their terror approached, believing they'd escape only to discover they were weaving deeper into a nightmarish fate ahead. The illusion of freedom flickered again, but was it salvation, or a trap waiting to close in and seal their fate? In that moment of realization, the shadows whispered a new truth, a truth that felt like a promise of the dread that loomed beyond. Would they find the exit or become another torment to haunt this wretched place? The corridor twisted like a serpent, its rhythmic breathing echoing every heartbeat. Mia's legs felt heavy, dragging under the weight of dread. She glanced back where her parents struggled to keep pace, their faces pallid and ghost-like, brushed over by the suffocating shadows. The dim flicker of trickster light still beckoned them, but something deep inside her began to scream, a primal instinct that fought against the allure. "It's not real!" Mia shouted, hoping her voice could break the weaving spell. In response, the whispers crescendoed, a cacophony of voices intertwining, teasing, "Come, join us." Each word slithered through the air, impossibly inviting yet filled with twisted malice. "Mia!" her father gasped, panic tightening his features. "Stay with us. Focus on my voice." They pressed on, chasing something elusive. Just as the flickering light whispered promises of escape, it dimmed further, casting a darker pall over their path. The shadows seemed to swell, retreating as if mocking their hope, then lunging back hungrily. "Mia, to the left!" her mother shouted, spotting an outlet that threatened to lead them away from the shadowed grip. But the walls seemed to seize, shifting and solidifying, closing off their only route. Every inch felt alive, pulsating, breathing despair. No! No! Mia shrieked, flailing when a shadow lunged toward her. She ducked, narrowly escaping its grasp. Her heart thundered like a war drum within her chest. But the disturbing laughter echoed, growing louder, reverberating like a taunt in her skull. "Please, we need to find a way out," Mia cried, desperation cutting through her voice. "We can't be trapped here. Keep running," her father commanded, his grip tightening around her wrist as they all skidded to a halt. The monstrous grasp of the corridor recoiled, creating more labyrinthine paths that split beneath their feet. Then it happened. An overwhelming darkness emerged from the floor, forming into a large shape. It was like a living shadow, its mouthless face twisted in a permanent grimace, eyes gleaming like obsidian. "Look!" Mia exclaimed, pointing to a gleam far down a corridor, the glint of some metal catching the faint light. What she hoped to be an exit was instead surrounded by writhing shadows, pulsating like the heart of a beast waiting to strike. "Mia, don't!" her mother screamed, but the pull of curiosity clawed at Mia's resolve. An instinct she didn't understand urged her to believe. But as they inched closer, the corridor seemed to conspire against them, walls spinning in chaotic fashion, warping her sense of direction. Just when their bearings began to settle, they found themselves returning to a familiar place, the larger chamber, an inescapable loop mocking their hopes. "Not again!" Mia whimpered, shaking. Panic squeezed her throat. "It can't want us to stay." Suddenly, a sharp sound pierced the chaos, a guttural growl emanating from the thickening shadows, a warning or a promise Mia couldn't tell. "Mia, hold my hand!" her father yelled as they huddled together, the tremors of the ground feeling like the heartbeat of something ancient awakening. Shadows danced with cruel impatience. Mia's breath hitched. What do we do now? Trapped in their own bodies, visions of twisted faces began to form, bound by shadows, laughter echoing around them, a distorted symphony of sorrow and despair. Each face sneered and flared, tongues darting out, hungry for their fear for their souls. "Please," she gasped, yearning for a way out, any way out, while the malevolent thrill of being hunted clawed at the back of her mind, but in that swirling chaos of tension, the shadows seemed to whisper again, "You'll never leave this place." And with that, the very walls felt like they were closing in, as hope faded into the suffocating dark, leaving only the horrifying question: would they succumb to the darkness, or find a sliver of light to wrench themselves free from this nightmare? They stood there in the thickening dark, the air heavy with despair. A gargantuan shadow loomed over them, and the fragmented faces flickered against the walls, etched in twisted expressions of malice. Each sneer and hollow laugh felt like a claw shredding at Mia's sanity. "Mia, listen to me," her father pleaded, his voice piercing through the panic. "We need to think. It has to have a weakness." But as he spoke, the walls and floors vibrated with an energy that made even their thoughts tremble. "Think? What can we do against that?" Mia yelled, her chest tightening as despair dragged her deeper into hopelessness. "It's too late." The malevolent laughter escalated, an unbearable sound that felt carved into her bones. Shadows closed in, they were suffocatingly tight, twisting around her limbs as if each dark tendril were alive. Suddenly, from the depths of chaos, a memory flickered in Mia's mind. Her grandmother, long gone, once spoke of shadows. "They feed on fear, but they can be turned." Mia grasped for that thread of hope, wrestling the panic curdling in her stomach. "Mama!" she shouted, eyes wide with desperation. "We can fight it. We just have to stop being afraid." Her mother's gaze flashed with a flicker of uncertainty, then determination. "How?" she gasped, entrapped by the endless shadows. "Think of something that brings you joy," Mia urged, her heart racing. "Just hold on to it and don't let go." From the corners of her mind, images danced: laughter at summer picnics, running through glowing fireflies, and the warmth of her grandmother's arms. She closed her eyes, visualizing every detail, grounding them in vivid reality. "Mia, it's too late!" her father shouted, eyes darting in panic as the shadows thickened and seethed closer. "No! We can break this!" She dashed forth, clutching her parents' hands tight, breathing deep and steady. As the writhing tendrils reached for them, she focused hard. "Remember our camping trips? The stars, the stories, the marshmallows." Her mother's expression softened, her father's grip tightened around Mia's palm. The warmth of memories began to swell, pushing against the icy despair wrapping around them. And then the shadows recoiled. At first, it was barely noticeable. A shifting back, a twisting away from the radiant glow of their shared memories. Mia pressed on, heart thundering as she found her voice again. "We belong to each other. We are not afraid." The growl escalated, almost protesting the warmth emerging around them. Faces from the darkness shrieked, shriveling back as glowing light began to pulse from their entwined hands. Suddenly, in a heartbeat, the corridor fractured. Cracks appeared in the darkness, slicing through the shadows like a knife. An almost blinding light burst through, a sliver that dared to offer salvation. "Keep going!" her mother cried, fight ignited in her voice. They rushed toward the light, step after step, feeling the shadows clawing less ferociously as they closed in on their shimmering hope, but the moment they thought they'd escape, a sudden pressure seized Mia's heart. The growling shadow condensed into a pulsating mass, blocking their path. "Leave! You cannot take them!" It neared, an embodiment of pure hatred and rage, its eyes like piercing fireballs. With a determination flickering in the darkness, Mia blurted, "I choose love over fear." At that moment, the air shifted. A whirlwind of luminescence engulfed them, ripping through the shadow's sinister presence. Mia gasped, eyes wide open, suddenly released from the nightmarish grip. They stood before a solid door glimmering in the distance, but shadows still thrummed ominously behind them. "We can't let it follow us," her father urged, pushing Mia ahead. As they dashed toward the light, the whispers snarled, "You can't escape, you've only just begun." Mia hesitated, heart pounding. Did they truly defeat it, or merely delay the inevitable? The door loomed closer, but the insistent darkness tugged at her mind, clawing for a moment of weakness. "Run!" her mother screamed, propelling her forward, but Mia felt the weight of dread settle deeper than before. Were they truly free, or was this just another sinister trick? The half-open door beckoned, its silhouettes like arms waiting. Would they step through, or would they face something lurking that they couldn't comprehend? Mia bolted toward the door, her heart pounding against her ribs like a wild drum. The faint light shimmering through the crack flickered, almost tauntingly, but she could feel the darkness clinging to her, curling around her legs like a serpent. "Don't think. Just move," her father urged, panting heavily, his gaze glued to the swirling shadows behind them. The shadows converged again, a menacing black cloud that twisted and writhed like it was alive. With every step closer to the door, sweat dripped down Mia's back. The whispers ramped up again. "You can't escape, you've only just begun," echoing in her ears like a haunting melody. Every syllable sank into her bones, seeping through her skin. She elbowed her way through the pain, fueled by adrenaline and the desperate hope of escaping. "Just hold on," Mia shouted to her parents, who were only a pace behind her. She didn't dare look back, terrified of what she might see. "Almost there," her mother cried, pushing forward as the shadows flickered past. Damning and clawing, they reached for her, just out of reach, but the fear clawed at her heart. "Now! Together!" Mia screamed, and with that, she threw herself against the door, her hands flying out to grasp the handle. It felt cold, biting into her palm, like a winter breeze had blown through the summer air. With a fierce twist and a push, the door creaked open, casting ethereal light across the darkened corridor. The flickering illumination felt like heaven's touch. Her father barreled in behind her, flinging the door wide just as her mother stepped through. But the crackling dark didn't stop. Instead, it surged, an angry wave pushing against them as if trying to reclaim its prey. "Shut the door!" her father yelled, but before Mia could respond, the shadows slithered forth from the gaping entrance, grasping hungrily at the edges. Mia shoved the door, slamming it with all her strength. It shut with a thunderous finality, yet the sounds of discontent echoed from the other side, snarling and slithering. The shadows promised vengeance. Breathless, they looked around. They stood in a dimly lit room, walls lined with tattered photographs of smiling faces. The air held a damp chill, as if the very walls were crying out for help. "Mia, what did we just escape?" her mother whispered, stepping back as if the walls might close in again. The moment felt precarious, teetering on a knife edge. "We don't know," Mia replied shakily, trying to steady her thoughts. "But I think this place has something to do with it." As they scanned the room, Mia's eyes locked onto one photograph in particular, a faded image of a girl that seemed to watch them. She looked familiar, but her eyes were sunken in, a hollow shadow masking her smile. Mama Mia's voice trailed off, a strange dread washing over her. It was unsettling, as if the girl could see into their very souls. Suddenly, the photographs began to ripple. Faces morphed, transitioning into grotesque versions of themselves, their smiles turning into sneers that could chill the bravest heart. Her stomach lurched. "We need to find a way out now," Mia shouted. But first, she had to understand what had they walked into. Just as she felt the pull of foreboding swirl around her, a soft laugh echoed in the dark corners. "You thought you could run, didn't you? Your battle is only starting." Panic surged through Mia's veins. They were trapped, caught in a nightmare with no obvious way out. Was this all just another part of the entity's cruel game? Or had they uncovered something far worse hiding within the essence of darkness? Mia took a step back, senses on high alert, as darkness pulsed outward from the walls, their twisted whispers growing louder. There was only one certainty: they had entered a new labyrinth of horror. "What happens next?" she whispered, clutching her family tighter. And in that moment, the shadows responded, drawing closer, an inescapable hunger, hungry for what they had tried to leave behind. Mia's breath quickened as the shadows twisted, curling into grotesque figures that flickered in and out of her vision. Each whisper felt like icy fingers trailing over her skin. "Stay close," she urged her parents, their faces pale with fear, but the darkness inched ever closer, palpable and hungry. Above them, the dim light flickered ominously, casting warped shapes that danced like phantoms along the walls. A low hum began to rise, vibrating through the very foundation of the room. "Can you hear that?" her father whispered, eyes wide. "Yeah," Mia replied, jolts of dread skittering down her spine. I think it's coming from over there." She pointed toward a door hidden behind a tattered curtain, its edges pressed tight against the wall, like a mouth mothered by decay. "Maybe it's another way out," her mother suggested, her voice trembling. "We should know." "We can't," Mia snapped, sensing danger pulse through the air. "What if it leads us deeper? We need to find something here first." "Mia, what if?" her father began, but the loud laughter from the shadows interrupted. A sinister chorus that felt like chains dragging against stone. "No!" Mia shouted, fear mixing with fury. "I'm not letting this place win. We need answers." She stepped toward the grotesque figures, now solid shapes that loomed just beyond reach. "Stay back," her mother warned, but curiosity swelled within Mia like a dark tidal wave. The girl in the photograph flashed in her mind, her image burning bright. Why did she seem so familiar? Mia's heart raced. She edged closer to the distorted forms, recognizing their twisted, pained expressions. The shadows flickered and whipped around her. Agitated, was she provoking them? While the room felt increasingly claustrophobic, the urge to discover the truth tugged at her. As if sensing her thoughts, the shadows coalesced into a single writhing mass. "You want to know?" it hissed, its voice an ominous blend of hundreds of whispers. You already have your answer. You all belong to us. Mia's stomach twisted. No, I want to be part of this. The shadows lunged forward, revealing hollow eyes that looked deep into her soul. She remembered stories her grandmother told, the ones she thought were only tales, shadows that feasted on fear, taking the innocent to feed their eternal hunger. The weight of realization crashed over her. Go! She screamed at her parents. Now! With a wave of fear-induced courage, she darted toward the hidden door, yanking it open. A rush of cold air hit her, reeking of mildew and despair. Mia, wait! Her father called, but she wouldn't stop. She plunged into the darkness of the unknown, bounding forward with only instinct guiding her. The doorway led into a narrow hall, dank and echoing. The low hum crescendoed into a cacophony of deafening screams, as if sailing through a storm of emotions. Mia pressed forward, heart racing, the shadows clinging to her heels like a haunting reminder that she wasn't free yet. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a room that glimmered with eerie illumination. Strange artifacts filled shelves, rusted trinkets, cracked mirrors, and bones strewn carelessly on the floor. A pulse of malevolence surged through the air. Mia could feel it tightening around her throat, a reminder that things weren't what they seemed. Mia! Her mother's voice called from behind. Mia spun around, but the shadows had begun to seep into the hall, cutting off her path. A whisper cut through the din, her name. Mia, she felt a tug on her heart, like a thread urging her back. But what awaited her? Could she trust the whisper calling her? As the shadows closed in, hungry and relentless, she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. Above it all, echoed the unsettling laughter, wrapping tight around her thoughts. Will you stay and play, Mia? In that moment, Mia realized she was more than just a pawn in their game. But who was really in control? Racing thoughts warped through her mind as the floor began to fissure, darkness pooling like a vast ocean about to swallow her whole. What choices lay ahead? And would she still be Mia when it ended? Mia stood at the precipice of overwhelming fear, her heart clawing at her chest like a caged beast. The shadows closed in, their whispers a tormenting symphony that promised despair. Get out! Find the light! Echoed in her thoughts, spurred by determination. She turned back towards her parents, horror reflected in their faces as shadows twisted and writhed around them. Sanctuary is near. Run! Mia yelled, her voice brave but tinged with panic. She yanked the door shut behind her, blocking the ravenous shadows for just a moment. Eagerly, she sought the edges of the room, something, anything, to give them an escape. The low hum morphed into a deafening wail, as if the very walls were lamenting the intrusion of life. Come on! We need each other. She beamed a resolute glance at her parents, who remained staunch at her side. They darted into the next room, arms linked tight. A narrow corridor stretched before them, lined with fractured mirrors reflecting disfigured images, their laughter still echoing. Mia's eyes locked onto one mirror that gleamed with honesty amid the chaos. She recognized the familiar face of the girl from the photograph, the one who had haunted her thoughts. It's you, she whispered, feeling something deep shift within. You're part of this place. Don't lose yourself, Mia. Her mother gasped, pushing gently against her back, urging her forward. They hurried down the corridor, mirrors shattering behind them, each crack a reminder of what could follow if fear took the reins. With every footfall, the darkness became a breathless monster, desperate to consume them. Finally, they arrived at a large door, but it loomed dauntingly weathered and unwelcoming. We can break through. We have to. Her father urged, his voice fierce with the strength spawned from loving desperation. Mia nodded, determination surging within her. Hand in hand, they readied themselves. On 3. She counted, feeling the warmth of her parents surrounding her like a protective barrier against the consuming dark. 1, 2, 3. With a mighty crash, They flung the door open, pouring into the room beyond. The outside light rushed in, filling the void with a brilliant warmth and the scent of sun-kissed earth. Blinding light enveloped the family, and for the first time, shadows recoiled. "Keep going," Mia shouted, tears streaming as the brilliant radiance pushed back the darkness. They rushed forward, stumbling out of the house that had held them captive much longer than time allowed, lungs filled with the sweet air of freedom that had once felt a distant dream. The sunlight felt electric against her skin, signaling the end of a harrowing nightmare. The once menacing house behind them stood quiet, as if it had relented, releasing its grip on their lives. In a moment that felt infinite, shadows shrank back until they became indistinct, dark smudges against walls of bright possibility. "We made it," her mother gasped, collapsing onto the grass, relief flooding her as she embraced the earth. Mia joined her, enveloped in a warm hug. Laughter bubbled out, raw and grateful. "We're alive." A tightness in her chest began to loosen, threads of the night unraveling, but as comfort settled around them, a creeping essence danced at the corners of Mia's mind. They had escaped, but an echo remained, a promise of hunger that lurked beneath the surface, a reminder that darkness never truly wanes. A thin figure danced behind the edge of the house, the silhouette of the girl from the photograph. A scream lodged in Mia's throat, but didn't come, it was merely watching, waiting. "Mia," it beckoned, a chilling caress slicing through the warmth. The family turned in unison, wide-eyed and fearful. Mia squared her shoulders, her heart racing. "You can't touch us anymore," she declared, defiance uncoiling in her voice like a bowstring ready to snap. "We choose light." With every ounce of belief, she allowed positivity to surge through her veins, envisioning the beauty of summer days ahead, the laughter of joy echoing over the fragrance of blooming flowers. Moments cherished, pure and unconquered. The faces of loved ones brightening her world. "Join us," she shouted, steadfast and bold, as the shadows shifted, a flicker of uncertainty in the air. The figure hesitated, shadow flickering against the glow of hope. In that heartbeat, faced with a choice, Mia felt the burdens of fear unraveling. She stepped toward the threshold once again, ready to confront the dark memory, daring enough to offer a hand. "You don't have to be alone anymore." The shadows lingered, swirling like a tempest, battling against the formidable light. Would it flee, or perhaps return? Only time would tell, but Mia knew one thing for certain: they were no longer victims, and with that thought grounded in her heart, she turned away from the foreboding house, linking her arms with her parents, daunting but hopeful. "Let us go home." As they stepped away from the malevolent shadows, the air around them hummed in a newfound lightness. Mia dared to glance back once more, the shadows retreating, and though darkness whispered, its voice was merely a distant memory. This was their moment to reclaim joy. Now, before you go, remember to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. We have more surprises waiting for you. Smash the like button now. You need to do it for the algorithm to work its magic. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you think of this thrilling conclusion? And don't wait even one more second. Share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. True fans, unite. Your support means everything.